Hello, everyone. Welcome back to today's episode of MetaCast. My name is Yashas from Team 18221 Meta Infinity in Trumbull, Connecticut, and today we are joined by a member of Team 23396 Polar and Adam from Team 12857. We're going to be going over an introduction to Autonomous for teams in the FTC competition. Polar and Adam, welcome to the show.
Hello everyone, I am Polar from Team 23396 Hivemind.
Hello everyone, I'm Adam from Team 12857 Phantom.
Hi guys. Can you explain the scoring opportunities available during the 30-second autonomous period in the current FTC game Center Stage?
I'd say the first thing that you probably want to be able to do is you want to customize your team prop because it doubles your eligible points for placing the purple and yellow pixels that you get with your preload. I would first focus on getting a park auto that is reliable, where you can place the purple pixel and the yellow pixel in the right spot and then park, because that's like an easy autonomous, and then you can work from there and add cycles. But you really want to focus on having more reliable cycles than having more cycles in general, because if you just have more cycles that aren't reliable, that's really going to be a burden to you in the long term. So I would say focus on those and you're probably good.
How should a team maximize their point potential during autonomous, considering both robot actions and game elements?
Looking at this season's autonomous period, it's pretty clear that the best way to maximize your point potential is just by nailing down the consistency of your initial preloads, since they'll make up the most of your core, and then getting a quick cycle time so you have enough wiggle room to properly optimize the different parts of your autonomous. So your paths, your pickup, and your pixel deposits. The proper coordination and flexibility for your partner is also really important this season, because you can knock out way more pixels in auto, with 2 robots versus just 1. Mechanism and especially drivetrain speed are also key, since you need to cross the field so many times, and a slow drivetrain is really going to limit you when you're cycling. And if you have something like an extension, a slow extension is also going to limit you a lot. And those little time losses add up very quickly when you have such a time-sensitive autonomous period.
What scoring mechanisms or game elements should a team prioritize to achieve a higher score in the autonomous period this year?
Like I said earlier, I do think the first thing that you should do when you're starting a center stage autonomous is customize your team prop. But I also think that you should probably focus on making your subsystems reliable and consistent, both in teleop and outside of teleop and autonomous, because if you can't have a reliable subsystem, then it's probably not the right solution for you.
So, what do you think the best strategy is for the 30-second auton period during the FTC matches this season for Center Stage?
On a lower level, I think the best strategy is to get a very consistent 2+0 and get out of the way of your partner as fast as possible, especially if they're going to be cycling, so they can take advantage of the more space and time. At a more competitive level, cycling 1 full stack is a solid goal, ideally in a way that leaves space for your partner to do the same. So this would look something like 2+5 or 2+7 for one robot, and then a 2+5 on the other. This would keep the stacks each team is cycling separate, so you don't need to coordinate pickups as much. At a top level, it's probably best for one person to cycle 2 stacks and the other to finish off the remainder to minimize interference while still getting all pixels. This would require a 2+10, which is pretty difficult, but unless an easy way to coordinate pickups from the same stack is found, I think one team having a 2+10 and one team having a 2+5 is optimal.
What key elements do you think the team should prioritize during the autonomous period in order to gain a strategic advantage?
I definitely think that something that most teams should leverage is having a reliable 2+2 or 2+4, because those can be your tiebreaker points and help you win like a finals or qual match and get you to that finish line that you want to be at.
How do you think teams should adapt their autonomous strategies based on the opponent's robots in the game scenario?
I think coordination with your partner is actually a lot more simple than it would seem like it is on the surface. I personally think that keeping your robot as close to one of the sides, so the stage door or a wall, depending on if you're on stack or stage side, and having an option to go through either as needed, and tacking on an adjustable start delay, you can adapt pretty well to almost any autonomous situation. Now, I do think that being prepared to talk with other teams and make adjustments to your autonomous on the day of a comp is important since, first off, not every team is going to be thinking about partner coordination, and even those who are might not accommodate your autonomous perfectly. So just being ready to change things on the fly or having more modular code would be definitely very helpful in those kinds of situations.
What specific challenges do you think teams will face when they're coding the autonomous routines for their robot this season?
In terms of challenges in the autonomous period, I think there's four main things facing teams: localization, navigation, managing intaking, and then just consistency in general. Localization for teams who haven't had experience with dead wheels can be very difficult. It's a whole different world from time-based autos and all that using dead wheels. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's pretty hard. The next thing, navigation. If you don't have experience with something like Roadrunner, making your own stuff can be pretty hard, and even learning Roadrunner for some people is pretty challenging. In terms of managing your intaking from the stack, if you don't have a proper sensor setup in your intake, knowing when to stop intaking, like once you have 2 pixels in your deposit, can be a challenge. And then consistency, there's just a lot to do in autonomous. There's going to be a lot of moving, a lot of drift, a lot of different things that need to go correctly for your autonomous to pull off with no penalties. And I think managing all of that is going to be difficult. I think those are your main challenges this season in autonomous.
How do you think teams should use code to ensure the reliability and consistency of their autonomous during different matches and different match conditions and field tolerances?
What I would do to maintain reliability and consistency in autonomous is use vision and also have different autonomous paths. So utilize the sensors that you have at your disposal to make sure that you never crash into your teammate, and sort of try and do a synced auto, but work with what I guess top teams are currently using as a reference for how you should be planning your autonomous pass for teams that have an autonomous.
Can you describe the decision-making process behind autonomous code and how it can handle unforeseen situations in the field, such as real-time tracking or vision?
I think the key to a strong autonomous decision-making process and a highly adaptable autonomous is just sensor feedback. Your robot is basically blind, deaf, can't touch, can't smell, nothing, until you give it sensors to see the world. In order to properly track your subsystems, fall back onto fail-safe states and stuff like that, you got to be tracking what's going on. Two good examples of proper sensor use on a robot are Wolfpack Machina and SouthStem from last year. Both of these teams make use of a lot of sensors and backups to achieve really high auto consistency. So for example, Wolfpack had a brake beam sensor in their claw that would tell them if they had a cone or not. Based on if they had a cone or not, they'd try extending again or proceeding with the rest of their autonomous. Brainstem had a huge sensor array just to tell where they were relative to the stack and make adjustments on their pose so they could always get their cone pickup the way they wanted it. And having a lot of sensors to make those good informed decisions is just the key to having a well adaptable autonomous.
So, how does your team share knowledge and strategies related to the autonomous period within the team, as well as to the teams that your alliance partnering with or other teams in the community?
So for us, we use sort of a mixture of Excalidraw and Figma to make complex flowcharts that are still easy to read and put splines on top of the field to indicate where we would like to go. These can be very useful to show exactly what your robot is going to do in autonomous to your alliance partners, and you can also do it collaboratively online with your teammates, so everyone sort of knows what the autonomous is going to do, which honestly eliminates a barrier of communication that I think some teams might have.
What role do you think each individual team member should play in contributing to the success of the autonomous period, or just the autonomous in general?
So despite autonomous largely being a code challenge, every sub-team plays a pretty critical role in its success. Decisions made by the hardware team should definitely be factoring in automation. How easily is a mechanism automated? So do we have sensors to track how it's behaving? All that. How consistent will this mechanism be without driver control? So for example, if your mechanism needs drivers to sit around and finick with it to make it work, it's probably not going to be easy to automate. And does this mechanism have a consistent behavior? Exactly what it sounds like. Can I make the exact same thing happen every time with this subsystem? Software teams take the brunt of the load when it comes to making an autonomous, and should of course be working very closely with the hardware team on the decision-making process, because coordination really is key.
How do you think teams should leverage the strength and expertise of individual team members when they design and implement their autonomous routines into the team?
I definitely think that I sort of answered this question earlier with the last question, but using the tools to your disposal like Excalidraw and Figma can definitely help you leverage the expertise and strengths of your teammates who would like to help design and implement autonomous. Having a way for everyone to collaborate on the logic and paths of your autonomous can definitely be beneficial, because then everyone knows how it works and you don't just have one person who, might know how it works or might not.
Thank you so much, Polar and Adam, for joining us today. I hope you both have a great season ahead.
No problem. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, and have a great season.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode of Metacast, and I hope you'll have a great day. Tune into more next week.